reading is taken from 2 Samuel, chapter 9, verses 1 to 13. David asked, "Is there still anyone left of the house of Saul to whom I may show kindness for Jonathan's sake?" Now there was a servant of the house of Saul whose name was Ziba, and he was summoned to David. The king said to him, "Are you Ziba?" And he answered, "At your service." The king said, "Is there anyone remaining of the house of Saul to whom I may show the kindness of God?" Ziba said to the king, "There remains a son of Jonathan. He is crippled in his feet." The king said to him, "Where is he?" Ziba said to the king, "He is in the house of Machir, son of Ammiel, at Lo-debar." Then King David sent and brought him from the house of Machir, son of Ammiel, at Lo-debar. Mephibosheth, son of Jonathan, son of Saul, came to David, and fell on his face, and did obedience. David said, "Mephibosheth." He answered, "I am your servant." David said to him, "Do not be afraid, for I will show you kindness for the sake of your father Jonathan. I will restore to you all the land of your grandfather Saul, and you yourself shall eat at my table always." He did obedience and said, "What is your servant, that you should look upon a dead dog such as I am?" Then the king summoned Saul's servant Ziba and said to him, "All that belonged to Saul and to all his house I have given to your master's grandson. You and your sons and your servants shall till the land for him, and shall bring in the produce, so that your master's grandson may have food to eat. But your master's grandson Mephibosheth shall eat at my table always." Now Ziba had 15 sons and 20 servants. Then Ziba said to the king, "According to all that my lord the king commands his servant, so your servant will do." Mephibosheth ate at David's table like one of the king's sons. Mephibosheth had a young son, whose name was Micah, and all who lived in Ziba's house became Mephibosheth's servants. Mephibosheth lived in Jerusalem, for he always ate at the king's table. Now he was lame in both his feet.
Hello and welcome to our video reflection for week 6 in our Keep Praying Lent season. Changed lives, generously changing lives. In the story Primrose has just read to us, we travel a long way back in the history of the people of Israel, all the way back, in fact, to the life of King David. David's best friend Jonathan has just been killed on the battlefield. A time of deep darkness in David's life. And yet, in the middle of the sorrow, a generosity blooms. Perhaps an unexpected generosity. David longs to show love to his friend Jonathan, but that's not possible anymore because Jonathan's died. So instead, he looks for somebody close to Jonathan, somebody who would have mattered to Jonathan, to show love to. And those around him find Mephibosheth, a man living with disabilities, probably living on the margins of society, unable to earn a living perhaps, living off the generosity and charity of the people around him. And they bring Mephibosheth to David. And it's hard to know, isn't it? I long to know what happens, as it were, between the Bible verses, because it's as though something happens. There's a connection between David and Mephibosheth. Perhaps David understands in some deeper way the misfortune and sorrow in Mephibosheth's life. Whatever happens anyway, David welcomes the man into his home, gives him a team of servants to look after him, and invites him to eat at his royal table, making him a member of the family. In the midst of grief, a new connection is made and a new friendship is formed. We need to care for ourselves, of course, when we're grieving. To be generous in a forced way isn't helpful. We need to give ourselves the time and the space we need. We need to conserve our resources if that's what feels like the right thing to do. And yet, when we remain open to the work of the Spirit in our lives, surprising generosity can spring up. We can find ourselves longing to show love in ways we never have before, maybe to people we've never shown love to before. And in that way, new connections are made, new friendships are born.
Lord, you call us to care even when our hearts are breaking with grief, even when we stand on the very brink of the valley of the shadow of death. You wait and you watch on the high ground of our lives, at the fringes, in the unexpected deep down places, and you offer us the strength to reach out from our own sorrow, to find another who weeps. In simple broken bread, a banquet is shared, a gift is given and received. We learn afresh what it means to reach out across the chasm. Sometimes it takes us time to let go, time to turn back against the rushing tide of our lives, to see the need we can help to fill. Call us to take the time, to see in the eyes of the other your unmeasurable gift.
Spirit of comfort, tend in us the wounds of sorrow and loss. Cleanse us from bitterness and soothe the sting of disappointment with the balm of hope. As we journey through grief together, may we find new well springs of love opening up within us and overflowing in compassionate generosity.
Jesus, forgive us when our greed leaves other people poorer. As we grow in our friendship with you, teach us what it means to be generous, and help us build the kind of world where everyone has enough. Amen.